Hello, and welcome to the Ag Culture Podcast, where we cultivate tomorrow by inspiring agripreneurs and ag innovators through real-life perspectives in agriculture. I'm Paul Windemuller, your host on this journey of exploration and growth. Today, I interview Michelle Miller, which is a name you might not recognize, but you probably would know her if I give you her social media influencing nickname, which is the Farm Babe. Michelle Miller is at the top of the charts when it comes to social media influencers in the agriculture community. Not only is she a social media influencer, but she's also an international speaker, a comedian, and also has hosted her own podcast. Michelle will walk through her story of how she became a social media influencer and also how others in the agriculture community can have their voice heard through social media and speaking. At the end of the episode, listen for how Michelle is venturing into a new way to get farmers engaged and off the farm together to talk about how we can influence the consumer's perspective of agriculture. I hope you enjoy this episode with Michelle Miller, the Farm Babe. Hey everyone, before we get started with today's episode, I just wanted to take a second to thank our sponsors, Bank Barn. I love these guys and what they're doing to streamline banking in agriculture. They're helping to connect farmers and lenders so that today's farmers have more options no matter the size of operation. Check out bankbarn.io to learn more. All right, Michelle Miller, the Farm Babe, welcome to Ag Culture Podcast. It's so good to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Looking forward to our conversation. You are somebody that I've followed on social media for a while. I know a lot of other people have followed you. You have a very large following, and you do a lot for agriculture and promoting agriculture around the world. So thank you for what you do. And to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I know you had some roots in agriculture, and then you kind of moved to the big city, right?
So yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin and I was a 4-H kid growing up. So even though I didn't grow up on a farm, my friends were farm kids. So every day after school, we would ride horses and do chores. And I always really loved the farm life and ended up moving to Los Angeles for college. So I got a degree in visual communications in the fashion industry. I worked for Gucci on Rodeo Drive. So I was about as city girl as you could be, living in LA and Chicago. And over time, eventually, I met a farmer. So I moved to Iowa for love and I started dating him and became a farmer with him. And that's where my blog started. So I started the Farm Babe as a blog in 2014. And so going on about 10 years of that now. And so it was kind of just this platform to bridge the gap between farmers and consumers and help tell the story of agriculture and advocacy with kind of that myth busting twist.
Yeah. So what was the big catalyst that got you started doing that? Did you just start doing it one day, or was there like a certain event that really kicked it off?
Yeah. I mean, I was really victim to a lot of misinformation. When you live in LA and Chicago, you think you know a lot, right? Because I watched that stupid movie Food Inc., right? Which isn't true. But being in a big city, I was like, oh, I took this film as gospel. And so you hear a lot of misinformation. And that's kind of what I believed. Like I was an anti-GMO activist after I saw the movie Food Inc., which like, if you've never seen it, don't watch it because it's not truthful. But yeah, so I mean, that film made my cousin become a vegetarian. It turned me into an anti-GMO activist. I would only eat organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, all of this stuff based purely on misinformation. So when I became a farmer and I started learning from my boyfriend at the time, who was a 6th-generation farmer, we were in Iowa growing corn, soybeans, had some cattle, sheep, all sorts of good stuff. But when I was there, he was basically correcting me on everything I thought I knew about agriculture. He's just like, of course my crops are GMO, like GMOs are a good thing. And I was like, what on earth? And so the more I dug in, the more I realized that I was pretty misinformed and a lot of people are misinformed. And along that line of misinformation is a blogger by the name of the Food Babe. And the Food Babe was out there spreading all kinds of misinformation. Oh, GMOs are just drenched in toxic chemicals and all this stuff. And I just politely corrected her on Facebook, and I was like, our food's not drenched in chemicals. Like I live it, right? Like we're GMO farmers and we're not like spraying all sorts of crazy stuff on your food. Like, come on out. Let's have a conversation. I'd love to show you life on the farm. And rather than engaging with me, she blocked and banned me from her Facebook page. So from there, I found a Facebook group called Banned by the Food Babe, which has 10,000 members. So I was just
Wow,
like, you know
that's pretty
what?
impressive.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, well, if the food babe isn't going to let farmers talk about farming, I'm just going to be the farm babe. And so the farm babe blog was born about 10 years ago. And that's kind of how it all started. Was I was just fed up with the misinformation and I wanted to take a stand for real farmers and real facts. So fast forward 10 years later and here we are.
Yeah, so you went from being a farmer to just writing on a blog, kind of just writing on social media, right? And then you made a business out of it. Tell us about that. What was that step that you took to really say, "Hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm passionate about it. I'm gonna make this a business."
Yeah. So I was farming in Iowa and I started the blog. And about a year and a half or 2 years into it was when I was able to go with it full time as a business, as an LLC. And how that happened was I had written some posts that were going really viral. And I had one post in particular, I only had about 100 followers at the time. And I debunked the myths around Roundup on our GMOs. So I did this post that was like, look, we only spray Roundup like 1 or maybe 2 days in an entire year at the beginning of the growing season. So like your crops aren't drenched. I talked about how minimal the dose is, like 22 ounces per acre. You're like a soda can or two, right? And so it's like, okay, it's really minimal. And that post went so viral, it reached 18 million people.
Oh
And
wow!
that's what, yeah. And so that's what put me on the map, was going viral. And then people from there just started saying, wow, I really like the way you communicate on social media. Will you come speak at our conference? Will you come talk about that? And so I did. And it just grew from there. And so then from there, it was speaking. And then, people wanted to bring me on as a social media influencer. And I think a lot of times people don't really know what that is. And basically what that is an extension of brand advertising, marketing, sales, education, advocacy. It's anything that that client wants. But instead of traditional marketing, like we used to do television ads and commercials and, all of that, now you have the power to do that through a social media influencer trusted platform. So I reach about 5 million people per month on social media. And so when I tell the story of agriculture, that's usually through some type of sponsored content. And so, being an influencer, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of expense. We're traveling, we're flying, it's hotels, it's rentals, it's car rentals, it's photography, it's videography, it's editing, it's posting, publishing, it's comments, it's moderating, it's responding to emails and DMs. I mean, it's a business, and people need to start treating it as such, And so through that, then I'm also a writer and columnist, influencer, and now I'm doing an event. I'm doing the Farm Cruise, the world's first floating farm conference. So farmcruise.com to book that. And it's just been going up and up ever since. And now I'm thinking I might start a travel part of it and travel the country and tour farms in a van. Like there's all sorts of fun things that life and business evolves, and it's really cool to see where it's all gone, and where it continues to lead. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, it just evolved naturally. I never said, oh, I'm going to be a YouTuber when I grow up. Like a lot of kids talk about that.
My daughter says that all the time. So
exactly, they all do. Like if you want some buy-in with kids, just tell them you're on TikTok, right? And then all of a sudden you're like God in their eyes. Yeah. So but it's never anything that it's something that just naturally evolved out of my passion, and that's something I preach to people too as a keynote speaker sometimes, is the topic of passion and following where your heart really takes you. If it's something you would do for free, you have like a passion, a purpose, a calling, do that, and something that makes your heart sing.
I mean, you're traveling all the time. You're away from home. You're on the road. How do you keep that passion ignited that you have when you're in the thick of it?
Oh, it's easy. I mean, my career is amazing because I get to travel and see so many different people and learn so many different things about ag. So I'm not doing the same thing every day. So it's real easy to keep the passion alive because one day I'm at a blueberry field in Michigan, and the next day I'm at a cotton field in Texas, and the next it's a cornfield in Iowa, and the next it's a cattle farm in Montana. So it's cool because agriculture is so multifaceted, and I feel like it's so diverse, and sometimes we tend to get pigeonholed into like agriculture is corn and soybeans, and so from there it's been really interesting because I don't tackle just one avenue. Like agriculture is global, kind of like you as a Nuffield scholar. Agriculture is global, and there's so much to learn and see and do that why not just immerse yourself and think on a global scale of global food system security and where that comes from and what that looks like and just what it takes to feed the world. It's pretty incredible.
It is. It really is. How do you build your connections that you have in your network? What's that look like?
I make time for a lot of people. When I go places, I'm always thinking about, oh, I'm in the area. Who can I visit? And I keep a pretty packed schedule just with wanting to connect and build on those relationships and those friendships. And I think a lot of it just comes from the goodness of my heart and the passion that I have for this industry that I think a lot of us in agriculture have is, we are the 1%. Farmers are 1% feeding 100%. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And so just to be a champion for them and be able to see them as something that I think comes very naturally, as it probably does for a lot of people, where you said, hey, I want to hang out with these people. They're really cool. They're like small town, good morals and values, salt of the earth, farmers. I mean, our industry is like the home to some of the best people in the world. And so, I think just over time, you just continue to build on those friendships and you cross paths at different events and, you just make time to see the same people. Hey, let's take a selfie. How's it going? Let's go out for dinner later. It's fun.
What's your audience makeup look like? Is it mostly farmers or are you talking a lot to consumers? What's that breakdown look like?
It's a good mixture. I would say most people that follow me tend to be more on the ag side of things, but and that's ag like agriculture. I have a Wisconsin accent, so whenever I say ag, people think I'm saying egg, and I'm like, I'm not saying egg. Like I'm from Wisconsin, we say egg like bag, like not egg, but egg. That's so stupid. I love it, but no, that's my Wisconsin accent coming out, but
we won't hold it against you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are an ag, and but it's a good mixture. You get a lot of people that are excited to learn about where their food comes from, and then you get a lot of people that are like, "Hey, you're in my neck of the woods. You're promoting the type of crop we grow. This is so cool." So it's a good mix.
Where do you see your business going in the future? What's your big goal?
Well, I'd like to get in front of more non-farm audiences. I'd like to connect and network with more people that can help our voices be heard in more urban areas. So my business partner is from Fort Lauderdale. My podcast producer is from Boca Raton. I live near Ocala. So we're Florida urban based, trying to get the message across a more urban consumer message, right? And so it's a good marriage of small towns and urban areas because that's kind of what it's going to take to move the needle and help people understand and advocate for us because everybody votes and everybody has an opinion and they need to connect with the farmers, the 1%. So where I see it going, I don't know. It's I kind of just let things, I put things in God's hands and whatever's meant to be will be. And I'm thinking, I was mentioning to you earlier, I was like, well, I might start a travel blog because I'm traveling so much that maybe I could tour farms and just live in a van, like a really cool, like camper van, and just travel the country, visit farms, maybe find love along the way. I'm still trying to find that. So, there's a lot of directions that it can go, and I'm excited to see what might unfold from that. But in the meantime, I mean, the keynote speaking thing is my priority. It's the way I mostly make a living, and then the social media influencer stuff, and then I'm writing and creating all sorts of great content. So it's never a dull moment around here.
You ever ventured into the political arena with talking to politicians about
different ag policies?
A little bit. So I have a puncast. It's called the Heard It Here puncast, and that is tied directly to policy. So working with the Florida Ag Coalition on that has been, it's the state commissioner of agriculture. It's the presidents of the organizations, like talking to a lot of policymakers and attending events where I get to meet policymakers and really bring home the points of farmers and connect with them and farmers of what they need help with, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I do this is to keep farmers on their farms and keep them supported and going strong. And especially times like these today with market prices the way they are, like they need all the help they can get. And I think the way we get there is through education, advocacy, and collaboration with the right people to make it go and move the needle.
Definitely. What's been some of the most surprising things that you've learned about different types of agriculture along the way as you've done your travels over the last 10 years?
Yeah, I think, and I'm a big fan of international travel. I've been to 69 countries now across all 7 continents. So international travel is another huge passion of mine. And I think when people think of foreign food, they think it's like gross or unsafe. And there could maybe be some truth to that. But with my experience, I haven't really experienced that. Like I was in South America and I toured it's the largest shrimp exporter in South America, where they're exporting 600,000 pounds of shrimp per day all around the world. And holy wow, like this factory was so clean. It's state of the art facilities, food safety through the roof. And so when I'm at the grocery store and I see seafood that's labeled like product of Ecuador, I don't snub my nose at it. I'm like, oh, product of Ecuador. Like, and I always promote buying local first, like if you can support your own community, your own country first, by all means do that. We have to keep farmers on their land. But also, hey, if it's not available, I feel very comfortable buying foreign seafood. And it's just kind of throughout my travels and journeys that I realized, like there's a lot of really cool, good things happening. I mean, can't say that about everywhere. Like don't drink the water in India, right? But don't drink the water in China. But from what I've experienced overall, it's been really incredible.
Very similar to my personal experiences that I've been traveling around. I spent some time in South America this spring, and now I'm in Europe. And it's really interesting to see people's perspectives on other areas of the world as you travel as well. That's the thing
totally.
that I've noticed. People have very big misconceptions all over the world about other countries.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. And I mean, even in Denmark, I toured a plant breeding facility there, and people are under the impression that plants in Europe aren't like modified. And it's like, well, they could be non-GMO, but their genes are still modified. It's kind of like non-GMO JKLOL. Or maybe they don't grow GMOs, but they're still importing ours. Or people say, I can eat wheat in Italy. And it's like, it's the same wheat. It's been exported. They imported it from us. So I think a lot of times it's like a placebo effect, or people are just in a better mood or happier because they're on vacation. I mean, you know what I mean? There's kind of, I mean, yeah, like when you're in Italy, of course the food tastes better. The sun shines brighter. The birds chirp prettier. The dogs are cuter. Like dresses.
And you're probably not going to fast food when you go to Italy for a vacation.
Yeah,
right?
right. And the portions are smaller, and there's a million reasons why you can feel healthier that don't necessarily correlate to false health halo. There's a lot of reasons why, but at the end of the day, food is global. We're importing theirs. We're exporting ours, they're importing ours, and vice versa. Like our food travels all around the world. So to say it's here this way and there that way is like not necessarily true because of international trade, where our crops are exported and shipped all around the world. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's very interconnected.
Yeah, it's very interconnected. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, I think what is it? 1 in 3. Yeah. Like 1 in 3 acres of corn in the US is grown for export.
Yeah. And almost 20% of dairy products in the US go for export now. We ship a lot of food all over the world. That's for sure.
Very true. Very true.
Going back to social media, I've done a little bit now myself. You kind of inspired me along the way to you and a few other friends of mine that have been bigger in social media to do some stuff. So what advice would you have for people like myself that are just getting started with social media. Um, Maybe not wanting to make a business out of it, but just want to show people what we do on a daily basis. And for me, I'm mostly doing it because of my Netfield project, and as I travel around, just so people can kind of experience what I'm experiencing as I travel.
Yeah, I would say number one is collaboration is key. Is part of the reason I was able to build my following is through friends that I met through like Facebook groups where we were all kind of page admins and we were sharing. So don't be shy. If you create a post that you're really proud of, share it in some sort of social media group. Like for me, my job depends on ag on Facebook has 150,000 members. And there's so many other groups, or you can tag somebody and you can collaborate. So like on Instagram, if you collaborate on a post with somebody, you can add them as a collaborator, and then your post shows up on both your newsfeed and theirs, which draws a lot of new followers to you. So by tagging people as collaborators, I mean, it just happened to me last week. I was at the Farm Progress show and I went out of my way and I made sure I got to get pictures with Just a Jackson thing, that cute kid that does the tractor videos. It's a Jackson thing. You know who I'm talking about? So like it's a Jackson. Yeah, he's so cute. So like It's a Jackson thing was there. Farm for Profit was there. Millennial Farmer was there. Laura Farms, Farmer Grace. I mean, all of these Welker Farms. There's so many that were there. And so I just did this carousel on Instagram and I tagged everybody and I added them as a collaborator. And then if they accept, boom, I mean, the followers just start rolling in. So I did a collaboration with Millennial Farmer and I got 5,000 followers overnight. So if you're looking to build that following, collaboration is key. And secondly, show who you are. I mean, make sure you're showing your own self, your own face, your own personality, whether it's just you or it's you and your spouse and your kids or your parents, or find that one friend or that one relative that just has the it factor, like that charisma, that sense of humor, something unique, and invite them and involve them. If you've got a really unique dog or cat or chicken or goat or something goofy, like I follow this girl, Useless Farm. She's hilarious. And she has this emu that follows her around. And this emu, Karen, is a Karen. She's like, and she tries to attack her all the time. And she just stops the emu. And it's so pointless, but it's so funny and it's so entertaining that you can't help but follow along. Yeah. And so just remember, like when you think about a TV show, what makes you want to watch it? There's usually a love story or a sense of humor or a hero and a villain. There's a story behind it. And so by telling your story, we've got to think beyond just like, well, here's like a corporate post. I mean, and not even I'm guilty of doing that sometimes, right? Like a little bit too much of an advertisement type post, but show yourself like you're a real human being and let yourself shine.
Yeah, that's great advice, and definitely helpful for somebody like myself just starting out. So appreciate that.
And like don't be afraid to tackle the tough topics. I mean, when we tend to shy away from those hot topics and we tend to think our voices can't make a difference, but I mean, they definitely can. And so, like just talk about it. Think about, would this go viral? Like, is this fun? Is it funny? Is it interesting? Do you help your audience feel something? What's in it for them? What's in it? People are like that in general, like what's in it for me kind of thing. Well, think about your audience. What's in it for them? What do they want to know? What would they share? What would they enjoy? And it could be something as fun and silly as a meme, or it could be a video that you put a lot of time and effort in. So you don't have to spend a lot of time, money, or effort onto doing a good post that could change your life, that could change the industry.
Those hard topics, what do you do when somebody is really just adamant that you're wrong and they're right and they want to make that point on social media? How do you deal with a situation like that?
The good news about once you do establish a following is that oftentimes your followers will come to your defense before you even get a chance to see the comment. So that's another important part about building the following in the community. But a lot of times, I mean, I might respond. Usually my followers do first, but just look at their profile. And if it's like a fake spam bot type profile where you can just tell they're just trying to troll, that's worth an ignore or hide or delete. I try to not ban people. That's like my last resort. And once in a while you have to, if somebody's just so mean, like you don't want to deal with constant negativity. But we have to remember that our followers are following us for a reason. They're there to support you. They're your biggest cheerleader. So think about that as you're going, that they are there to help and support you as the content creator. And so, I think it's a really small part of it. And if you get somebody that's just a thorn in your side, you can also change the subject. So sometimes if I do a post that's like, "Oh, here's the truth about GMOs," and if it ruffles some feathers, well, then my next post will be a freaking goat in pajamas. It's like goats are the only thing on the internet that doesn't offend anybody. It's like everybody's so offended by everything nowadays, and so I think just by switching up that content and saying, "Okay, enough about GMOs. Here is a post about coffee harvest or strawberries or something fun," it's like something different and unique, that can kind of make them go away.
No, that makes sense. What about those people that you really want to engage and try to maybe change their mind about the industry, about agriculture? How do you go about doing that in a productive way?
Oh, well, I think people really just want to be heard. And so by acknowledging people's thoughts and feelings, by saying something like, "Hey, I completely understand," and connecting on shared values. So a lot of how you could approach it is, "Hey, I get it," right? You've seen information on the internet that says, these livestock aren't treated right. People think big ag is bad, and you can say, "Well, look, like I've been there. I've been doing this for a living. I've been raising cattle. I've been around this industry my whole life." And share your personal experience or share some resources that could help them. Be like, "Hey," and provide some links or some talking points, and then kind of wrap that up with, "I really hope that helped. And if I can help you with anything, please contact me at any time. Here's a link to my website," where you're really trying to be a kind resource. You want to talk to everybody like you would want to be talked to, which is just be nice. We're never going to win anybody over by being a jerk. But I think just hearing people out and saying, "I get it." Like I used to read those articles too. I used to feel the same way as you. And realizing that farmers are trying to be and generally are very good stewards.
Yeah.
Regardless if it's crops or livestock, they've been doing this 100+ years. So you can always kind of check the source of information. "Oh, these livestock are raised in these cruel, torturous conditions." Well, said who? A vegan from New York City who's never been around the industry a day in his life? Or the guy that's boots on the ground that's been a rancher for 50 years. You know what I mean? Like somebody has a little bit more clout here. Like somebody has a little bit more credibility here. And so, just digging in on who is the author. Are they trying to sell you something? What's going on with all that?
Yeah, I had experience one time. I'm in a business group, and we were having a virtual meeting, and one of the other guys that was on the meeting, we were talking about our businesses, and I'm telling everyone I'm a dairy farmer, and this other gentleman, he's from Canada, and he puts on vegan festivals and vegan conferences. So we actually kind of had a sideline conversation. I said, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you and kind of hear your perspective on things." So we had a separate conversation after the meeting, and I just asked him, what I just wanted to be very genuine, and I was genuine. I wanted to understand why he was vegan and he was so passionate about it. And he was saying, "Wow, I really care about the environment. I really want good, healthy food, and I really want animals to be treated well." I said, "Those are the exact reasons why I'm a dairy farmer." So
yeah,
really interesting to see. We had shared values, right? But we were looking at things very differently. I think he had very wrong information, and I actually did a virtual tour with him around my farm so he could see what it looks like.
Cool.
I was a little nervous about it, but I think at the end he told me he had a lot of respect that I did that for him and was genuinely interested in his views and helping him understand what I do and how it was a little different than what he thought it was. So I think that was an example for me of sometimes you do put yourself out there, but you have, like you said before, be genuine about it. I think that's very important.
Yeah. For sure. And that's what's so amazing about what we do is the ability to connect with people and help others realize that your voice matters. It can make a difference, you know? And I think a lot of farmers are just like, oh, I'm just a farmer. And they kind of undervalue the power of their voice and what they know and what they do and how that's amazing. And yeah, I mean, there's so many people that have great stories like that. And they're really cool. They're beautiful breakthroughs.
Well, before we go, I want you to delve in a little bit more about this farm cruise that you're doing. I want to hear a little bit more about that. What was the stimulus behind that?
Yeah, so the farm cruise is the first of its kind, world's first floating farm conference. And, you know, we all go to so many farm conferences, but they're usually in, you know, Nebraska or Iowa or something, right? So it's like, well, I want to do something. Yeah. And I wanted to do something different that the industry's never seen before. So my business partner, Jason, throws the Groove Cruise. If you ever heard of the Groove Cruise before, it's like the world's largest floating dance music festival. And he's been doing it over 20 years now. And he's got this crazy cool music festival energy that our industry's never seen before. And so I said, you know, I want to bring that to the agriculture community. I want to throw them like a party that we've never seen before. And so I got some of the biggest names in social media influencers as the headliners. So I've got like, you know, Farm Fit Mama and the Shiloh Farm and Modern Day Farm Chick and Farmer Grace and so on and so forth. There's about 10 of us. And they're kind of like the headliners. They're kind of like my musical artists, if you will, like kind of the celebrities to help promote it on social media. And then we're going to do some farm tours in the islands so people can learn about agriculture in the Bahamas, swimming with the pigs excursion, you know, some speakers and breakouts and meet and greets and all sorts of good stuff. And so that's just kind of how it started. I was really admiring my friend Jason, and I have been friends over 20 years. He charters entire cruise ships now. And I mean, sells out so fast. He had Tiesto and let's see, John Summit as his headliners this year. And I was like, someday I want to get like the Luke Bryans of the world on the farm cruise, you know, and like take this thing, go really big, but we have to start small. So it's my first year, February 24th through the 28th. It's farmcruise.com where people can book. And it's still going to be a great business experience. And but as a way for all of us in the farming community to just come together on a cruise ship and go hang out for a few days in the Caribbean in February, get out of the cold.
I think that's a phenomenal idea. I don't know how nobody's thought of that before. I've been to a few conferences in Las Vegas, but it's still Vegas. I'd much rather be cruising around the Bahamas or the Caribbean.
Yeah, come on down. Tell your friends.
Yep. Awesome. Well, we'll
I'm excited.
That in the show notes for sure. But yeah.
Thanks.
All right, Michelle. Well, thank you so much for being on the Ag Culture Podcast today. You've been an inspiration to many people, including myself, and what you're doing in social media to promote agriculture around the globe. And thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. How can people get a hold of you and find out more about what you're doing?
Well, just Google Farm Babe. I'm out there, but the website, my website is thefarmbabe.com. And you can search Farm Babe on Facebook is where most of my followers are, and at the Farm Babe on every other platform. So whether you're Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it, just search the Farm Babe and you will find me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michelle Miller, the Farm Babe. This has been the Ag Culture Podcast.
Well, hey, I had a lot of fun doing this interview with Michelle Miller, the Farm Babe. And as we mentioned at the end of the interview there, the cruise that she's got going in the end of February, if you're interested in checking that out, go to the website farmcruise.com. And if you're interested in being on board when that departs, if you put in Ag Culture for the promo code when you check out to book your tickets for that cruise, she's allowed a $50 discount for each ticket for that. So if that's something that's interesting to you, check it out, farmcruise.com, and type in promo code Ag Culture. So that's a special thing that she's done for our audience. Thank you, Michelle, for doing that. And as always, if you found value in this episode, or know of somebody that would be interested in hearing what Michelle had to say in her story, please like, subscribe, and share it with somebody that you know. And also, if you want to see our video version of this podcast and check out some of the YouTube shorts that we have, you can check out YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Ag Culture Podcast. So check that out. I encourage you to subscribe. We have some other upcoming content that we'll be posting on there as well of my travels as I continue through my Nuffield Scholars journey. And until next week, I'm Paul Windemaller, and this has been the Ag Culture Podcast. Thanks for listening.